This is an introduction to Illustrator. When you first start, you'll see a blank screen. You go File, New, and you can name your document. I'll just call it Logo. Choose your size. We're going to be working with letter, which is 8.5 by 11. Your units, make sure they're in inches, because everyone's used to working in inches. The figure standing upright would be portrait. Sideways is landscape. For now, we'll be working with landscape. And click OK. And you have your layout. We'll get started with the toolbar. The black arrow is for selecting an object and moving it. The white arrow is for selecting a point on an object, not the entire object. It's also for working with Bezier curves. You can click and drag the handle to move the shape to how you need it to be. We're going to talk about the pen tool. If you hold down Shift, you'll get a straight line, and it will keep adding points until you're done. If you press Control Shift A or Command Shift A, it deselects your path. If you hold down Shift, again, you can have a straight line going up and down or side to side. Holding down Shift will also give you 45-degree points. Using the pen tool works off of stroke weight. You can change your stroke weight up here. Obviously, the smaller the number, the thinner the stroke. Also, when working with strokes, go to Window, Stroke. You can adjust the weight here. I clicked on the side button right here, Show Options. This is where you can change the end caps, the corners, and how you align the strokes. You can also have dashed lines. Changing this would be the gap, the space in between them. So I made it a smaller number. A larger number should make a greater gap in between the stroke. You can also, with strokes, add arrowheads. That's all from under the options in the stroke window. You can choose to add them at the beginning or the end, and there's a variety of arrows heads to choose from. You can also scale the size of the arrowheads to fit your design. When using the pen tool to make curves, click and drag. Use as few points as possible to get the smoothest curves. If you need to make this a shape, whenever you're making any path, always remember you'll see a small circle appear next to the pen tool. That means you're about to close the shape. Click and drag to create and close the shape that you wanted. We'll clear the desktop. We're going to discuss the shape tool next. When you have it set to square, or the rectangle tool, and you hold down Shift, you get a square. If you do not hold down Shift, you get a rectangle. You can click and drag to whatever dimensions you like. A third option for using the shape tool is click once and you can enter exact dimensions. So if I wanted a 4-inch by 4-inch square, I now have a 4-inch by 4-inch square. This blue box is the bounding box. You can scale it down. Holding Shift will scale it down uniformly. If you do not hold down Shift, it will not be a uniform scale. If you hold down Option and Shift or Alt and Shift, it scales down towards the center from all sides. You could also do an Alt Shift or Option Shift to scale just the sides non-uniformly. When working with the bounding box, if you rest the mouse outside of the bounding box with the black arrow, you will get a rotate icon. You can rotate it freely, or if you hold down Shift, it'll snap to 45 and 90 degrees. If you need more precise rotation, double-click the Rotate tool and choose the amount of degrees you want. The same goes for the Scale tool. You can uniformly or non-uniformly scale it as need be. Also, an important thing to note is scale strokes and effects. When you work with your logos, make sure this is clicked on for when you scale so that your artwork stays consistent when you scale it up and down. The last of the basic tools we'll be discussing is the text tool. You select your type, and under character you change your font. For this demonstration I'll just do Arial. You can choose your style, bold, regular, and italic, and your font size is how you make the font larger. We now have basic type. The blinking cursor in between lets you know you're in between the letters. If you hold down the Option key and click the arrow buttons on the keyboard, you can change the space in between the letters. This is called kerning. Once you have it looking how you like, we're going to duplicate the text, and I'll explain why. I'm going to hold down Alt and Shift to make an exact copy of it lined off of the left edge. The next step, we'll right-click and create outlines. This will get rid of the font and turn it into shapes. Another way to do this is Type, Create Outlines. So you can either go Type, Create Outlines, or right-click on the text and create outlines. Always make sure you've duplicated it before you do this, because you cannot change the font once it becomes line art. All of it is selected because it's grouped together as one object. If you right-click, you can click Ungroup, or you can go Object, Ungroup. Now you can select a single letter and move them around as an object. Once you have them as shapes, you can also edit them as shapes. With the white arrowhead, you can select just certain paths and certain points on the shape and alter it. Use the black arrow to move the entire shape. The same also works with curves. I'll magnify in. Use the white arrowhead to change the curves to any shape you need to make your logo unique to your own design. That is a basic overview of working with the simple tools in Illustrator.